Good morning and welcome to First Saturdays on BikeTalk Radio. I am Elizabeth Williams from Cali Bike Tours in Long Beach, and today we have some very special guests that will be sharing with us how do we empower people through bikes, and our special guests have different programs going on throughout the country that have been very successful with attracting people to biking and to the benefits that biking has to offer. And these organizations have been able to sustain their programs. So we wanted to get some folks together today, talk about their organizations, their best practices, and how we can maybe take some of those ideas and implement them here in LA and Long Beach and maybe in some other parts of the country as well, so that we can really empower people, connect them to all the benefits, the health benefits, the economic benefits, just the overall feel-good benefits of riding bikes. So our first guest today is Helen Ho from New York City, and she's with Recycle a Bicycle. And Helen is going to give us some background on her organization, what's made it successful, and then we have a few other guests today as well. So Helen is on the line with us. Good morning, Helen.
Good morning. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you. How are you today?
I'm good. It's hot. It's a hot day in New York City.
Yes, summer is coming. Summer is coming. Well, I guess we're having an early version of summer, even though it's still spring. But thank you so much for joining us here today. And we would like to find out, like, how did you get started with your program? And can you tell us a little bit about it?
How did I personally get started with the program?
Yes.
Well, I was tricked into joining my program here at Recycle a Bicycle. What happened was that I have been working in the nonprofit environmental field for quite some time with the New York City Parks Department, and I ran into our founder and current executive director. We used to work together 5 years ago, and she kept gifting me with bike jewelry that she would make and explaining to me what the parts were. And I thought that I better remember what they were in case anyone ever asked. And like slowly but surely, I got sucked into the biking world through like little pieces of bike jewelry that that I got through her. And so I guess it's 6 years later now, I'm the development director for the organization. And so that's how I got started with it. And the bike jewelry is a way that we engage young women into the bike world of bike mechanics, because it's traditionally a very male-oriented environment. We also, there's a lot of trickery that happens. We sign girls up for a bike jewelry program, and then they have to wrench their own parts off of the bicycle and shine everything up in order to make their bike jewelry. But it works pretty well. A lot of our girls go on to become bike mechanics and to build their own bikes afterwards.
That is wonderful. That is a wonderful way. I've seen a lot of bike jewelry and bike art at different bike events, and I get so excited when I see it, but it's not something that is, I guess, widely known, that people actually take parts of bicycles and make them into something that's really beautiful and something that's usable. So that's wonderful that you're able to bring young ladies into biking through jewelry, and they're able to actually learn a skill that they can earn a living off of.
Yeah. And so I think they learn multiple skills from that, because they have the opportunity to sell their jewelry, and so they practice writing a business plan, and they practice their sales pitches, and it's like really exciting when something that was about to go into the scrap bucket becomes, a profit. And it's also great that they become bike mechanics. There's a lot of work that goes into deconstructing a bike and knowing what parts you're working with. And so there's a lot of, skill and labor that goes into that as well. So, it's great on multiple fronts.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So can you give us an overview of what Recycle a Bicycle does?
Definitely. Recycle a Bicycle is a nonprofit community bike shop. We were started in 1994 by our founder, Karen Overton, who I mentioned, who tricked me before, after she had come back from doing starting a bike program in Mozambique, Africa. And she came back to New York City, where she was living, and wondered why there wasn't a similar program in her own hometown. And so that really spurred her to start Recycle a Bicycle. And so what we do is we started in a middle school in Washington Heights, teaching middle school students how to become bike mechanics. And we are in 20 different schools, middle schools and high schools throughout New York City right now, frequently working with students in school and after-school programs. And we take about 1,000 students each year, ages 10 and up, on bike rides all over New York City, where they pedal about 24,000 miles altogether and burn close to 2 million calories.
Wow.
And so, so those are our programs, and we have 2 used bike shops. And so when folks donate bikes to us, they could wind up being resold in our bike shop. They could be used for one of our school programs, or internships, teaching students how to become bike mechanics, or they could be made into bike jewelry, or they could be recycled for scrap metal. And so we're just trying to keep everything possible out of the landfill.
That is wonderful that you've been able to get into the schools like that. I've been trying to figure out how to get into the schools in Long Beach, but it's been a very challenging, I'll say, endeavor. So we have safe.
The school system is pretty challenging.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that your organization has found a way to be able to get to them, to get to the students, so that you can teach them some skills and get them moving and active. What have you found that has attracted people to your program the most, where they're like, oh, well, Recycle a Bicycle, this is great. We want to do this, and we want to keep doing this.
Well, we're providing a service to the community, whether it's a place to drop off their old bikes or a place to learn how to become a bike mechanic, whether you're a young person or an adult, or whether you need service and repair. These are all, we offer a lot of services to our community. And so, and we try to create safe spaces for our young people. A lot of times we work with an untraditional student environment. Some of our students are new immigrants to the U.S. Some of our students come from, a homeless population. Some of our students, are part of an LGBT community. And so we really try hard to create a safe environment for all of our students through the bicycle. So we view the bicycle as a tool to building community. And I think folks are attracted to that.
Okay. Yeah. If we can figure out how to engage folks and give them something that they find value in, then they'll keep wanting it and understand that it's something that benefits them, and then share it with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's wonderful. You've been able to do that. And in LA and in Long Beach, we're trying to develop more programs for people who live here, and to really connect folks to bikes, and trying to become creative and as innovative as possible. So do you have some best practices that you would recommend that has worked for you?
Yeah, I think that the best practice that I could recommend, which is also one of the ways to create a successful bicycling program, is to really listen to what people in the community want, and to meet them where they're at. And so I think for us at Recycle a Bicycle in New York City, partnering with other organizations has been the most useful thing that we have done and we continue to do because we partner with schools, with hospitals, with medical professionals, with health professionals, with transportation advocates, with other businesses, and we're a pretty small staff with a small budget, but we do a lot of things, and it wouldn't be possible without all of the support of our partners and everyone kind of pitching in where they can.
So partnerships would be the best way to go about it.
I think that partnerships is the best practice that we have that we can share with other folks and encourage other folks to do.
Well, thank you for that. And what as far as funding, I know that we've struggled here in Long Beach and LA with we have all these wonderful ideas, but our challenge has been finding funding. And we all know that we need funding to make things grow and to attract more people and to attract more creative people so that we can continue to grow even more. So how have you been able to find funding to sustain your program? And what types of creative ideas have you been able to come up with that have worked for your organization so that you can continue to serve the kids and continue to serve the community?
Well, I think like every single nonprofit out there, we are trying really hard to diversify our funding and not to depend on any one thing solely. But that being said, we have 2 retail bike shops where we sell used bikes and we provide full service repair. And that provides more than 50% of our funding for our nonprofit and for all of our programs. So that's a major part of it. We make our own income by taking in, refurbishing, selling bikes, and doing bike repairs, giving people tune-ups, fixing flats, and having 2 storefronts to do that with.
Well, that's wonderful. How did you guys acquire 2 storefronts?
I think it started off as a chance opportunity, and as we said, we started off in a classroom in Washington Heights, and it became the real earned income model of sustaining ourselves.
Okay. Well, your program, when I first met you, and I'd heard about your program before I actually met you, and I got so excited about it because it seemed so wonderful. I didn't know about all the other pieces, like with the jewelry. I heard about teaching the women to learn how to fix their bikes and become bike mechanics. And I got really excited. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. We could really use something like this here in LA. And although we do have a lot of programs, but we need more. So thank you so much for sharing your ideas and your best practices with Recycle a Bicycle in New York City. You definitely share some things that we can use here in Long Beach and in LA that we can incorporate into programs that are existing or create new ones so that we can continue to connect with folks, with the students, with the adults, people who haven't yet realized how much a bike can change their lives. So thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And is there anything else that you would like to mention about your organization?
Yeah, I would. I hope that there's a listener out there that is inspired by everyone on this radio show today and goes out and starts some of these new programs we're all talking about that are happening nationwide. So we have a lot of resources. You're welcome to call all of us and ask for advice. And thank you, Elizabeth, for inviting me onto the show and giving me the opportunity to talk to Long Beach and LA listeners about Recycle a Bicycle.
Well, thank you so much. And Helen, would you provide us with contact information as well? So if someone wants to learn more about Recycle a Bicycle in New York City?
Sure. Our website is www.recycleabicycle.org. And Recycle a Bicycle is all one word. We're also on Twitter at RAB_NYC. And you can find us on Facebook as well.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your insight on how to empower more people through bicycles. And we really appreciate your work and all that you're doing in New York City. And really now it's nationwide because you're working with the League of American Bicyclists. So we are excited. We're excited to share what you're doing, and we're looking forward to hearing more about what Recycle a Bicycle is doing in New York City. And thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, we're going to move on to Allison. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Allison. So we have Allison Graves, and you used to be the executive director for the Community Cycling Center in Portland?
Yeah, I was the director for 3 years after having, I actually started there in 2005 as a volunteer and was hired soon after that, and just had a number of different positions, culminating in the director position, and was there for over 7 years, and just a great place. I miss it a little bit now, but they're doing great.
Well, wonderful. So when did you leave?
In March.
Okay.
So not too long ago.
Okay. Well, we wanted to talk to different organizations, and especially the Community Cycling Center that you were a part of before, and find out like what types of things make those organizations successful, that cause them to have an impact in the communities to get to empower people through bikes. And we just wanted to know, like, how did the Community Cycling Center get started?
Yeah, so the Community Cycling Center was started a while ago. It was started in 1994 by a local mechanic who lived up in a neighborhood called Alberta. And he would see these kids riding around the neighborhood with broken bikes, and he thought, what a great way to get to know people and build community by fixing kids' bikes and building relationships and going on rides to explore the neighborhood. And that little seed of an idea grew over the years into started as a volunteer-run community bike shop, and now it's a full-fledged, fully staffed community bike shop that has also some really, what I think are pretty innovative community programs that kind of go beyond the walls of the bike shop itself and do empowerment-based work in underserved neighborhoods in Portland.
Wow, that's wonderful. That is wonderful to hear. So,
what's that? I'm sorry?
That's wonderful to hear.
Oh, yeah.
So, what is the thing that's attracted people to the program?
Yeah, well, I think that as it relates to participants, the thing that I think draws people to the program is, and the program that I'm thinking about, because there are a number of different programs. There are educational programs in schools, and there are programs for low-income adults to get bikes to travel to work. But the program that I think is really kind of charting new territory is the community collaborations, and it's work that we started in about 2009 that began with a community needs assessment. So part of what I think has been successful is that we identified some community partners and asked the residents of these multifamily affordable housing developments, there are two of them that we're working with, about what their barriers are to bicycling or what their barriers were to bicycling. And based on the conversations, we learned some really interesting stuff that, it's not just having safe places to ride, although that's really important, but if you don't have a safe neighborhood, then safe places to ride, a bike lane in a neighborhood that people don't feel safe in is kind of beside the point. And beyond just bike lanes, it was, just a place to get your flat tire fixed, or the cost of purchasing or maintaining a bicycle, which sometimes in bicycle advocacy conversations is a perspective that's not well discussed or recognized, that if you're living on low incomes, any cost beyond your, putting a roof over your head and food on the table can really be beyond your means. And so how do you create more affordable, more accessible, hyper-local access to bike repair? And not only that, but some of the barriers included, not knowing other people to ride with, or wanting to ride with. We heard moms talk about wanting to ride their bicycles with their kids, but not knowing how to keep their kids safe, really. So it kind of got to the knowing the rules of the road. So we heard this pretty comprehensive list of barriers, and so we engaged the residents of our partners and kind of said, well, we have some resources. Let's work together to design programs that help you be the local champion, put literally the tools in your hands to help your neighbors, help your families. And so it's really morphed over time into more of a empowering local champions, and also developing local complementary infrastructure. So one project is what we call a bike repair hub, which is it's like a little bike shed where people in the neighborhood can get their bikes fixed by their neighbors. And then also secure bike parking was another project that we're working on. So really asking the question, what can we do to help, and then putting the tools in the hands of the residents and the neighbors to drive the change, and then we apply the resources we have as an organization to support it. So it's really working in partnership, so it's empowering for both sides, and it's been really challenging in some ways, and also really exciting in lots of other ways.
Yeah, I've read about some of the projects that you guys have done, and they're really exciting, very innovative. Can you tell us how were you able to engage the residents in the two housing communities?
Yeah, so one thing we learned early on was the power of relationships. So we didn't jump in with a lot of ideas or a lot of projects. We really just showed up and went to community events and met residents and tried to get a sense for what really just who people are and what they're interested in, and really build a people-to-people connection. So that was number one. And then the other was really working in partnership, recognizing that we as an organization have some resources and some assets and some knowledge, but we don't have everything, all the pieces of the puzzle that are required to develop long-term work or engagement in a neighborhood that we weren't necessarily familiar with. So we worked with different nonprofit organizations. So, for example, Hacienda is one of the multifamily affordable housing developments that we work with. We work very closely with some of their staff who are community builders, so they have relationships with the residents. And we also worked with other nonprofits in the neighborhood who were doing empowerment-based leadership development, so that people who had graduated from leadership programs delivered by this other nonprofit who were interested in bicycles were then really ready to engage in the conversation about how to focus on promoting health in their neighborhood. And that was, I guess, another piece was not leading with the bicycle, but leading with community health, and leading with how to build and empower communities on their terms, as opposed to coming in, with I think what is more of a typical bicycle advocacy angle, which is bikes are great, let's all do this together, which doesn't always resonate so well. Mm-hmm. And so I was really trying to find common ground, really was the basic key for us.
Okay. And now, like, the nation is really focused on health. So you hear health being talked about everywhere.
Community health. Yeah, community health, and also we have a really innovative local community health foundation that helps us understand about the something called the social determinants of health. So your health is impacted by where you live and the education that you have, or the school that you have available to you, and the jobs that are accessible to you, and so this entire system adds up to your capacity to be a healthy individual and community. And so we looked at a couple of factors of social determinants of health. One was jobs, and the other was just access to your community, just literally transportation access. So a lot of our programs have morphed from what we call direct service, like we teach you how to do something, more to we'll train you how to develop a skill so that you can gain employment skills, and we can develop a social venture over time, which is the Bike Hub, the Bike Repair Hub project. There's more like an employment training and social venture path that we're developing. So it's really trying to get at the root of the problem, and it's, again, very challenging in a lot of ways and very rewarding in many other ways. Certainly not, there's no roadmap that existed at the time, so we really were learning as we go and trying to adjust and keep the focus on, again, getting at the root cause and not just a Band-Aid on community health.
Yeah, and I think that is so important. And I think the communities appreciate organizations more when you come in and you actually want to get to the root cause, and instead of wanting to put a quick Band-Aid on it and say, oh, well, look at our accomplishment. And then when you're gone, then it goes back to the way it was before. So being able to leave a program or to establish a program that can be sustainable by the community is very, very important. And we're really trying to focus here in Long Beach and in LA on, like, how do we create programs that can be sustainable and that the community sees value in and they want to participate in. So do you have some best practices that you would suggest for us here or anyone else in the U.S. that wants to empower people through bikes? Like, is there any one thing or two things that you would say, you know what, these we have found work and they work consistently?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, like my colleague Keith Holtz, who's in Milwaukee, would say that I'm not sure we have best practices yet, but certainly lessons learned. And I think the first one for us was understanding barriers, was really starting with asking what we thought were good questions, and then really listening. And in that listening process and really deep reflection with an orientation of partnership, try to design something that is truly meaningful and relevant and empowering for the community that you're serving. So that's not like a prescription for this is a program you can plug in, but really more of a process for how to go about really affecting lasting change. And then, I guess I would have to say the things that we're developing seem to have promise. Again, I wouldn't necessarily say they're best practices, but I think that the Community Bike Educator program that we developed as part of this community collaboration is training community members to provide basic bike repair and really be like the neighbor you can go to get your bike fixed, because in a lot of underserved neighborhoods, they're in what we call bike deserts. You've probably heard of food deserts.
Yes.
And there are places where there's not a bike shop that's affordable, or there's not a bike shop that speaks the language other than English, or there's these different barriers for getting that basic repair. And in our experience, flat tires are the number one repair need out there, which is a relatively easy problem to solve. But again, developing that local capacity for being the person who fixes things by doing the community bike educator program. So the people who participate learn that basic safety repair. They also learn how to lead rides, and so they can bring friends and family and neighbors out to explore the the resources in their community, and that's been working really well. And the graduates are really excited, and it puts them on a pathway for the possibility of employment. And we at the Bike Repair Hub, our other partner is New Columbia, so the Bike Repair Hub is located there, and it's it's like a little bike shed. It was designed by art students in this really great project last summer. And so there's a little, it's a place where the neighbors can go in their neighborhood to get that basic bike repair. So really making that, those services very accessible to the degree that we can. So again, I think it's less of a prescription for what to do and more about how to do it. So what are the problems, and then what are some solutions that can be gathered to address that problem at the root cause. And then I think a lesson learned is just tell the story. Let people know what you're doing, because there's a lot of interest in developing programs that are beyond what is kind of the mainstream of bicycle education or advocacy. And I think a lot of communities are interested or curious or committed to that quest, but they don't always know what it means. And so I think at this point it may be more about the process and less about like a specific product, if you know what I mean, or a program.
Yeah, I do. And I'm finding that is true in the work that I'm trying to do in Long Beach. So, yeah, it's getting, trying to find where the people are as far as their views on bikes and health and transportation, and then from there developing a program rather than coming up with a program and saying, here, this is for you.
Yeah, and I think something else that you mentioned was influential for us too, which was, who is it that you're specifically, trying to connect with? And some organizations have a very kind of wide and a very broad approach, and some organizations or individuals have a very kind of specific approach. And we chose to focus very on multifamily affordable housing developments, with the idea of connecting people to the places where they live, learn, work, play, pray, and really try to focus it, because we are a relatively small organization. But that's not to say there aren't other ways to be successful, but that's just the path that we took.
Okay. And it's been successful.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there have been a lot of challenges along the way. The residents of the two housing communities, their lives are very transient, and so, we would, in some cases, we'll start a group. We form bike committees at the different locations, but people move a lot. Their lives are, there's a lot of fluidity that drives them from one housing development or one state or one country to another, on a pretty fluid basis. So, that's something that we have to manage. So that poses a challenge in the process of developing continuity or sustainability from like a nonprofit organizational perspective, if you know what I mean.
Okay. And Allison, how have you guys been able to successfully fund your programs to be able to sustain them?
Yeah. So it's hard for me to talk about the program without starting from the beginning with the Understanding Barriers Needs Assessment. And so Understanding Barriers was funded through a local governmental agency that focuses on regional transportation options. So we have a regional group called Metro, and it came from their funding stream initially. And then it was the needs assessment and a pilot program. And once we had completed the needs assessment, we, with their support, were able to disseminate the information relatively widely, locally, and to a certain degree beyond Portland. And that raised the awareness of our community about the opportunities for broadening and building a healthier community, not putting more people on bikes, which you hear a lot of, but really building a healthy community is what our message was. And that got a lot of attention. And once we had that attention, we had better opportunity to reach different source. So we submitted some successful grants to local community health foundations. And there were some grants that were not successful, and that was part of the challenge of the emerging work. You know, we didn't, like I said, we didn't really have a roadmap, and so building the kind of traditional case that the grantors want to see, which is what's the problem, how are you specifically going to address it, what are your outcomes, in which time frame, was really hard for us to say. And so it took us a while. There was a period of time when we were not successful in securing grants, so we had to do individual fundraising, and that was successful, but there definitely were some very lean times and in the process. So, you know, funding is always a challenge. So I guess the bottom line is that it was a little bit of governmental funding, a little bit of foundation funding, and a little bit of individual funding.
Okay, so you were focusing on all areas, not just on community funding or just on government funding.
Yeah. I think that, you know, there are sources of funding that come from the government that can be really helpful, but I've always been wary of getting too connected to that stream of funding because it's so variable, as we've seen lately. Yes. And then grantors, you know, they're just strings attached, and so just being able to have as many unrestricted funds was our priority, but that's takes a lot of time to build that, so it's always a challenge.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us on how we could create more successful bike programs in our communities?
Yeah, I think, you know, kind of what you're doing right now, which is talk to people, and let's build our connections, and let's try to, you know, maybe someday move from lessons learned to actual best practices, so that we're not always recreating the wheel. I believe it's true that in different communities need different things, and so there is no one size fits all. But there are lessons learned, and there are some ways to take something that one community has developed and modify it for your own. So I think it's continuing to build relationships among practitioners, so that we're better able to bring ideas or resources to the work that's happening in our communities. So I really am excited that you're doing this kind of conversation. It's really important. And then the work of the Equity Advisory Council at the League and other organizations that are trying to bring people together and try to elevate the work and advance this really important work.
Well, thank you for that. I was really impressed by the study, the barrier study that you guys did, and I got a lot of stuff out of there where I'm like, okay, well, we can use some of this in Long Beach, and it brought attention to areas that maybe I hadn't thought about before. Cool. In a program. So, and I'm wondering, now that you are no longer a part of the Community Cycling Center, do you have plans to develop another organization that's bike related?
I am, the quick answer is no.
Okay.
But I'm definitely committed to continuing to learn as a, you know, I'm actually kind of reluctant to call myself a bicycle advocate. I'm really a community advocate, but I think the bicycle is a really interesting tool to build community. So I'm on the board of the League of American Bicyclists, and I think there's a lot of really interesting work that's happening there, and so I'm trying to network with the people that I'm meeting who are outside of Portland and bring some of those ideas back to the network of people inside of Portland and just try to connect the dots. So that's what I'm doing in the short term, and you know, in the next year or so, I'm going to be figuring out what my next steps are, but not yet clear about what that's going to be at this point. So stay tuned.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, Allison. We really appreciated you sharing how the Community Cycling Center has been able to be successful and be impactful in the communities. And is there a website or contact information that people can use to get more information about the Community Cycling Center, and also if they wanted to contact you directly?
Yeah, so if anybody wants to find out more about what the Community Cycling Center is doing, their website has a lot of great information, including the Understanding Barriers reports and some of the materials that we have to perform the needs assessments. So go to the community to www.communitycyclingcenter.org. That's the website. And then if you want to get in touch with someone at the Community Cycling Center, there's a Contact Us page, and so you could find the individual or program that you want to reach out to, or contact Melinda, who is the communications manager. So MELINDA, Melinda, at communitycyclingcenter.org. And if folks want to contact me, I am accessible by email on at AlisonHillGraves@BikeLeague.org. So ALISONHILLGRAVES at BikeLeague.org. That's the League of American Bicyclists email that'll get to me.
Okay. Well.
So yeah, and I really appreciate the work you're doing, and I welcome staying connected with people and trying to, like I said, connect the dots and help to advance this really important work.
Well, thank you, and we really appreciate the work that you've been doing and the work that we know you're going to continue to do. Thank you so much for your time, Allison.
Okay.
Have a good
Thanks
day.
so much for your time. Okay, have a good day.
Bye-bye. So we're here with Andy Rodriguez from the Multicultural Mobility Organization in LA. So good morning, Andy.
Hi, how are you, Elizabeth, and everyone else?
I am well, thank you. How are you?
Doing well, just enjoying my weekend.
Good. Enjoy it all. We have a beautiful day here in LA too, so perfect weekend. I'm excited about it. So,
yeah, you got the sun out and everything, so I'm ready to go out biking.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us today. And today we're talking about how do we empower people through bikes. And we know that your organization has done a lot in LA, and we want to hear more about it so that maybe we can take some of what you're doing and use that in current organizations or to create some new programs so that we can really empower people and get them moving and healthier and saving money through bikes. So would you give us a little background on how your organization got started?
Yeah, sure. Well, our current organization, which is MCM, actually began as a program under the LA County Bicycle Coalition called City of Lights. City of Lights was founded by Allison Manos and Adonia Luco, which in 2008 began talking about how to better engage Latino cyclists. And so in 2008, they began the program. I joined them perhaps months later, and we began just giving out lights on metro stops, on street corners of Los Angeles. And I came up with the idea of, really being more targeted. And we began teaching and giving out bike lights to day laborers in Los Angeles. And so we work with Carecen, Idepska, and other day labor centers in South LA, El Monte, and different places. And so the reason why we began reaching out to Latino immigrant cyclists is because there was a lack of community outreach to these communities. Often these cyclists were going through the most horrendous cycling experiences you could ever think of, getting into collisions, being cited unjustly by cops. And we knew that this was the right population to outreach to. And around that time, the LA Bike Plan was ramping its efforts, and we decided that this would be the most opportune time to reach them and to look at the bike plan and see what was missing. And so we began doing planning work with day laborers at Carecen. And so we looked at the bike plan. We asked some of the day laborers what were some of the lanes that they would like to see in the bike plan that were not currently listed. And 7th Street was one of the bike lanes that, was not in the plan, went into the plan, and was one of the most celebrated bike lanes in Los Angeles. And that was advocated for through day laborers at Carecen. And now, with the recent transition with MCM, we have about a year since we began our own nonprofit organization, now focused on pedestrian and transit issues. Now we're working towards creating more programming in those two departments, but this is where we're at right now, and we're happy to be here serving low-income communities here in the greater Los Angeles.
Well, that's wonderful that you guys have been able to work with a group of people and actually make an impact. And it started in 2008?
Yeah.
Okay, since 2008. And MCM has been around for the past year?
And for the past year, correct.
Okay. And how have you guys been able to attract people to your program?
Well, it's interesting because, this is a population that is very transient. And so what I mean by that is that you often have to go to them to reach them because this population doesn't know too much about what's going on in the city. They don't attend city hall meetings. And so we make that special effort to reach them and to talk to them and to hear their stories, because it was, it's very important that, people in LA and elsewhere know what's going on with the bike plan. And so it wasn't like we just came up with a flyer, put something on the internet and people showed up. We knew that this population obviously reads their stories, via Spanish newspapers and community events. And so, this was a very unique population that we needed to target to. We needed to go to them. We needed to let them know that this program existed, and we were here for them to answer any questions related to bike safety, anything related to planning, and even to, do their own bike rides. And so, often we forget about tailoring specific community outreach, efforts. We often feel that, just by putting out like a Facebook event invite, that's it. But often, we have to be very intentional about, reaching people who are often not being reached to, within these mediums because, they're interested as much as we are, but, someone hasn't contacted them. Someone hasn't been to, their center. Someone hasn't, intentionally made an effort to, make that connection. And so, and in turn, by us going to the centers, we have attracted other people from other day labor centers, so that they can come and join us, and learn more about what their rights are. And so, as cyclists. And so, it's been a very fascinating experience, often one that, requires, more intentional outreach. It's not your traditional outreach that you would do in terms of the social media aspect of it, like that we see today.
So you have to go to where the people are.
You have to go to where the people are, and that's you need a very strong, team to do that, because, you need people from the community. Often we follow the promotoras model or the promotores model, where, although we haven't fully named it that way, it's been done that way because the people that we've connected to, for example, a fellow cyclist by the name of Jose Guzman, who in early stages of City of Lights was a very prominent individual, very fluent and very articulate individual who actually was a day labor worker at Carecen. He made so many connections with some of the other day laborers because the center is located, next to Home Depot, and you probably have some other day laborers, soliciting, work perhaps at the exits of the, of the parking lot, and so there's usually a disconnect between those people. People are just, they know about the center. They know what it offers, but they're not so much interested. So we had Jose Guzman, go out there and do some community outreach for us and tell the people of the community, and even outside of that specific sphere to help us conduct, very, very community relations based outreach. So that has been a very important asset that we follow because, people who have a lot of trust within the community are the people that we want to connect with and talk to so that we may be able to garner the trust of the community overall. So that's been a very important aspect of our programming.
So with that, my next question is, what are some of your best practices that you'd like to share with us? That's probably one of them.
Yeah. That's definitely a best practice. On a similar note too, as well, as part of gaining trust, we actually came out with about a year ago. We launched the Precaución, tu familia también usa la bicicleta model, and that was a first of its kind in the whole nation, where we solicited day laborers to work on a public service announcement in conjunction with the city of Los Angeles, specifically with the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. And what we did, we actually solicited day laborers to come up with their own messages, because often these are, like I mentioned earlier, these are cyclists who often go through horrendous experiences while they're out there riding their bikes. So we said this is a perfect population to be able to, have their voices be heard through a public service announcement. And so we got several day laborers from the community, from Carecen and Ilevska, and we had them come up with about 25 to 30, messages through a brainstorm session. And this was an effort as well with Allison Manos, the current board president of MCM, and Miguel Ramos, our community outreach person. And so we all got together. We brainstormed about 25, 30 messages, and we reduced them down to 5. It was also a special unique partnership because we also solicited graphic designers pro bono. And we said, this is a unique opportunity. We would love to partner with you. And they said, sure. And so out of the top 5 messages, we then got together with the graphic designers and we said, hey, can you guys develop some images for these messages? And the resulting number one PSA message and design was the one that I mentioned earlier, which is the Precaución, tu familia también usa la bicicleta, which in English just translates to, be careful, your family also rides a bike too. And that image was created by Aaron Kuhn, a fantastic graphic designer. And that was a model that had not been done elsewhere in the whole nation, and a message that had been delivered, crafted, and developed by people from the community that was then, presented to LADOT, which they loved and they supported, and it launched all over the LA County with about 1,000 bus shelter ads, specifically targeting motorists that they should watch out because, their family also rides bikes. And so often, these motorists, they don't really get that heartfelt message. And this PSA provided that. And so that was a great outreach tool that we used, because not only did we come up with a PSA bus ad, but we also came out with a commercial which, sort of dramatized that experience about, what it feels like to, to be a cyclist and to ride your bike. And so, those are some outreach, best practices that, I would, suggest that you begin talking to your council member, that you begin to talk to your, to the person at LADOT or any Department of Transportation in your city, and begin talking about ways to develop messages, within the community so that they can be, placed in the city. Because, once people know that it was done by community members, then that message resonates even more with the people that are being targeted. And so, we did a fantastic job, and I was so honored to, facilitate that with some of our board and volunteer members. And with the video, it's a fantastic video. It really shows the dynamics of what it's like to be a cyclist. And that video was produced by Jordan Malagrana, who we thank a bunch for being such a supportive person and making this video possible.
Yeah, I've seen the video, and it is wonderful. And yeah, I completely agree how we need to get with the population that we're wanting to serve and have them create be a part of the process in creating your programs and creating your outreach on, like, what are they going to respond to? Because if we come up with something like, we think this is all creative and innovative and everybody's going to love it, but if it doesn't resonate with the population that we're targeting, then we've just wasted a bunch of time and energy and money. So you guys have been able to target target the population, get their input on what they respond to, what they're dealing with, and be able to put that back out in a positive message that says, hey, this is our family, so this is why we need to know the rules of the road, why we need to be safe while we're out riding our bikes, why we need to be safe while we're out driving. So wonderful job, and I'm so glad that that worked out and was very successful for your organization. And with all the work that you've been doing, like, how have you been able to successfully fund your work and to make it sustainable?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of ways that we've been doing that. First is by obviously by developing very awesome campaigns, public service announcements. We've been able to fund some of our programming through some of the messaging that we've been able to do in the past. But the way that we have sustained ourselves, even without any money, has been through volunteers. Volunteers are the heart of any organization. You're going to need them to do outreach. You're going to need them to do programming. You're going to need them to do accounting, whatever it may be. We're in the stage where we're in great need of that, and we are relying heavily on outreach, on volunteers. And so, but I guess it's just resonating with the volunteers who want to work for you. They need to be convinced that the organization that they're going to be volunteering with is an organization that serves the community and that has practices that resonate with them as well. And so we've been able to do that successfully for the past, since 2008 up until now. In fact, our board is primarily volunteer-based, and we've continued that tradition, and we'll continue that tradition up until whoever knows. But they are the heart of any organization, and we highly depend on volunteers to come and support. And but I guess to get down to the point of that, to make it sustainable is coming up with great programming, coming up with a campaign where people can contribute their talents and skills, so that they can become, people that feel great about the organization, that they feel like they're part of something, because people in the community want to feel like they're part of something. And when you can provide that opportunity to them, everybody's, confidence and joy goes up when they hear about a campaign that's going to be starting, or about a specific programming targeting, English, low-income people, and putting out roles for them. I think that's very, very important in any organization, that we're clear and intentional about how we can best fit the skills, assets, and talents that the volunteer brings to the organization, because you don't want to have a volunteer doing 10 things and feeling burned out by the second month. You want that person to have a very clear role, and to feel like they're being appreciative of their work. So part of that is actually giving them a clear role, and appreciating them for what they're doing, because it's volunteer work, and just being intentional about that process. So the other way we have been sustainable throughout these years, we actually put on an annual fundraiser event, which we've called the Bicycle Awards. And so through that medium, we have been able to raise a lot of money for our organization to continue to develop print materials, outreach materials, and to be able to purchase just basic things such as helmets, lights, and other safety materials that we use to give out for free to our participants that participate in our workshops, such as extra ankle bracelets and that kind of thing. So through the outreach efforts that we've done in the community, through our volunteer base, through our fundraising, we have been keeping ourselves quite sustainable. We're looking for also government grants, but we know that obviously has a sunset time, and so things, as much as they rise with funding, they also sunset. So we're looking at a mixture of all these things together combined, because we know that we cannot fully sustain ourselves with just purely government grants. So our hope is that if we come up with a great program with a great message to go along with that, then we can get a lot of buy-in from the community, and the community can be stakeholders of our nonprofit. Community is the one funding the organization and the efforts, because they feel like they're being talked to, they feel like they're being communicated to, and they feel like their voices are being heard. So so through those means, we've been able to keep our nonprofit organization alive and and well respected in the community. So.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for that information. And Andy, if someone wants to find out more information about your organization or you, how would they contact you?
Yeah. They can go online to our website. It's called multicultimobility.org, and I'll spell it out. It's MULTICULTI mobility.org. That's our website. And people can also go through our Facebook page and just, go into Multicultural Communities for Mobility, and you can find us there as well. We post a lot of our information that's going on in the community, articles that we find very interesting that have a social justice, environmental justice perspective on biking and alternative transportation. The video that I mentioned earlier, for those that are wondering where they can actually find it, they can actually go to Google and just type in precaución, tu familia también usa la bicicleta, and they could find the video and the PSA bus ad that we developed last year. And so we look forward to, having this discussion about, reaching underserved communities and low-income communities, because, this is a conversation that's not happening as strong as it should in our communities. And we definitely want more people of color to be involved in this process, because it's a very important process, given that a lot of the people that we serve ride bikes not as a recreation, but as a necessity. People need to ride these bikes because they need to get somewhere. And so, and I thank you, Elizabeth, and everyone else on your team that provided us this opportunity to have a great discussion about this,
Well, thank you so much for your time, Andy. We appreciate it. We appreciate your input, and we appreciate the work that you and your organization have been doing in LA County. And we got some good information that we can hopefully use in our programs, or use in creating maybe some new programs, so that we can impact more lives and make more of a difference in LA County, in Los Angeles, and Long Beach. And we thank you so much. So have a wonderful day, and we really appreciate you, and keep up the good work.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Okay, all right, bye.
So now we are here with Brian Drayton from Richmond Spokes in the Bay Area. So today we're glad to have you with us on Bike Talk, Brian. We wanted to reach out to you to talk about, how do we empower people through bikes, and your organization has been doing a lot in the Bay Area. So we just wanted to talk to you today and find out, how did you get started with your program? And give us a little background about your program.
So originally, Spokes was kind of created by me and Doria Robinson from Urban Tilth. It was around a conversation about the hidden bike culture, or the invisible bike culture in Richmond. She was really interested, as a third-generation Richmond person, she was really interested in having some type of bike program for kids, and was thinking Cycles of Change type model, where you take kids on rides and teach bike safety. And I was sitting there and I realized that there were a lot of other social issues that were going to have to be addressed, and there was going to have to be more of a wraparound kind of thing. That once we engage those kids and we get them involved, then we're going to find out about what else is going on in the community and have to have solutions. So it started off as a conversation and very quickly turned into the desire to engage the community completely around social, economic, mobility, and health issues, and ended up getting folded in with urban gardening and advocacy, and quickly all those things.
Wow. So can you give us a brief summary of what programs you offer now?
So we actually made a big transition recently, and we opened up another Spokes in Oakland, so 10 miles down the road. And we're looking for, we're in a capital campaign to raise funds to buy permanent space in Richmond for our bike programs. The programs that we run and that we have been consistently running is the advocacy stuff that we were doing called reality rides. And that was where we took city officials, redevelopment, and also just regular community folks on rides with clipboards, and we rated the streets whether or not they were family-friendly or commuter-friendly, and helped but we helped design the regional bike plan. The other things we do is we do bike fix-ins. We call them fix-ins, but they're like, bike rodeos where we fix the bikes for the community for free. We give out helmets. Bike valet. Last year we parked 6,500 bikes doing bike valet, offsetting 15 football fields of carbon. So a lot of impactful stuff like that as well as workshops, and we have the speaker series as well.
Okay, well, wonderful. What have you guys been doing to attract people to your programs? Like, how do you get your participants?
Well, I think the bike rides are really the Pied Piper. People see the rides and they get excited. In the Bay Area, we have a lot, we have a really rich bike advocacy movement, starting from critical mass to what's going on now, these things called bike parties. And like you guys have with the Ciclovia down there, we've got some Sunday free streets in San Francisco and auto free streets. Those are some of the best ways to do outreach and pull people in. And then the other thing, the shop in Richmond is the only bike shop for 420,000 people. So right now, while we're in this hiatus, people are eagerly trying to find ways to keep their bikes going. So it's a high need that helps to keep an organization going, but also to be able to predict and to look at trends in health, wellness, transportation, and even gas prices and economy.
Okay. Do you have some best practices that you'd like to share with us? As the goal of this program is to talk with different organizations that have been successful and impactful, and hopefully be able to glean something from our conversation and be able to maybe inject it into some programs that are already currently going on in LA and Long Beach, or maybe creating a new program. So do you have any best practices that you'd like to share with us that have worked time and time again?
I've been doing some workshops recently, and I'm investing a bunch of energy into supporting the creation of community bike organizations. And first of all, we have to define what a community bike organization is. And the commonality is it's a bike shop that's run by the community. In most cases, it's created out of the heart and love for cycling. And I think the best practice to really look at is to balance that heart and love of cycling and that community piece with a really solid business plan. To actually know who you're serving, what the demographic is, and what the impact area is around it. Currently, I'm working on a project called the Community Bike Collective, and in conjunction with the League of American Cyclists and the committee that both you and I are on, the commission, the Equity Advisory Commission, we're actually looking at how community bike organizations sort of how they impact right where they are in the communities in ways that the other bike industry places don't, like the retail big bike shops don't impact the communities the same way. So I think the best thing is if you're involved in the bike community, and whether it's through the economic development and shops or the advocacy, is to know how to document and know how to track your impact so that you can get support.
Okay. So documenting that we can show people on paper.
Yeah. Well, you want to quantify it and you want to also qualify it, and then it's good to have a story. So I think people are picking up that multimedia and social media is really able to capture a story. I mean, Cali Bike Tours has a lot of great exposure because of the way the media has actually been able to attach to the work that you're doing, and the fact that you took it from being a business to also incorporating advocacy and support for the community.
Yeah, it's amazing how social media can reach so many people and give you so much exposure So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. So, well, thank you for sharing that. And as part of all your work in creating these programs, how have you been able to fund your work and reach the masses?
Well, see, that's a tough one. I was really lucky that I had a number of private donors that came to me and offered funding.
They just came to you?
Yeah, I
Nice.
had one person that came and said she really wanted to help out, and I said, well, we've got volunteer positions, and she said, no, I have a chunk of money that I can use to help out, and I said, how much? And she said, $50,000.
Oh, wow.
I kept a straight face, and I said, well, that sounds great. But what I found after that is that $50,000 is not a lot of money.
Yeah, it's not in the
shop,
yeah.
But to start off a decent bike shop, you're looking at $250,000 just to get the parts and the bikes and the equipment and the patches and tubes and tires and the lease and and it goes down the list, insurance. So I actually sat on that for 2 years and told her that I wasn't going to use it on expendables and I was going to use it to actually create something more permanent. So I think the best thing is not to rush. If someone donates money, put it aside and use it for something that's concrete. Use that volunteer time and the in-kind time the best way that you can so you can offset whatever cash flow you have, and try to invest in assets, in the things that you can resell, that you can mark up, that you can get profit, or that create, tools create more assets. So, yeah, focus on tools first. Get all the tools you need. Get the things that are renewable resources and things like that. But it's a tough one. Business plan, I say it again. Work from your heart, but also, get that business plan template there. Even if it's just a conversation or a movement and you don't have a product, it's still good to have a mission and vision that's really solid.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us about how you've been able to create a successful bike program in your community?
Just that it's always growing. I mean, in a lot of ways, nonprofit work and community good work can be economically not very, very gratifying. And I say that in jest. I've done nonprofit work for so long, but it's actually now's a really good time for our economy to actually shift and for us to actually start monetizing the work that we do in our communities to create healthy communities. And that's where you start seeing big foundations, and you see Kellogg's Foundation and the Cal Endowment and Kaiser coming up with these healthy community grants. Keep your eyes on those things, because we've been doing this work, and traditionally we don't get paid that much to talk about an idea or a movement, but these movements are actually getting monetized now. Just think about every time you ring your Safeway card, they're tracking everything you buy and what you do with it, and they're realizing that there's a whole market out there around health. So keep your eyes on what it is that what's the impact, and figure out ways to monetize that, and you'll find that there's way more money out there. When people are saying there's no money, there is more money. There's always more money.
Yeah.
And then money's not the primary focus. Sometimes it's just resources. Sometimes it's advocacy. Sometimes it's going to the federal level, like we can do when we're attached to Legal American Cyclists and Bike Belong and lobby groups, and directing more money to the streets. So always think about getting the rubber on the road, as they say, and having impact with what you do.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Well, if someone wants to find out more about Richmond Spokes or wants to contact you directly, how can they reach you?
Oh, absolutely. You can just Google richmondspokes.org or oaklandspokes.org, and all the contact information is on the site. So either oaklandspokes.org or richmondspokes.org will take you to the same entry page. And I'm available for people that want workshops or they want to have a speaker at their conference, but I'm also just available to do a quick consult. So
okay, so is there a number or an email for them to contact you directly?
Brian at oaklandspokes.org, and 510-545-2243.
One more time, please.
510-545-2243.
Well, thank you so much for your time today and for your insight. We appreciate the work that you're doing in the Bay and the work that you're doing nationally. We need more people like you with the drive, the energy, and the creativity. I am glad that we have met, and thank you so much for sharing. I believe that we've got some information about what you're doing that we can use here in LA and in Long Beach, and that people can use actually nationwide to either improve their current programs or to start a new one. So your work is very appreciated, and you are too.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Brian.
I'll keep doing it, and you keep doing what you're doing. That's great work.
Thank you. You take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So today we've had a great conversation with several folks who are part of organizations throughout the country, and they have been very successful in really making an impact in their communities with connecting people to bikes and all the benefits that biking has to offer. Really being able to empower people through bikes, and we really appreciated having them. So today we had Recycle a Bicycle from New York City. We had the Community Cycling Center from Portland. We had the Multicultural Mobility Organization in LA, and we also had Richmond Spokes from Richmond, California. So we got some good information, and hopefully this is something that people will be able to take some of the information and use that in their current programs, or give them an idea on how to create something new in their communities to empower more people, to get them moving on bikes and get them healthier. And today I was in the studio without my co-host because John Jones unfortunately is under the weather, and Renee is on her honeymoon since she got married last weekend. So starting in July, hopefully everyone will be back on first Saturdays on Bike Talk Radio with some good information about bikes to share with you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a wonderful weekend.